recording. Okay, so we are good. I'm going to hand over to Dr. Castillo. She can go ahead and introduce yourselves. And thank you so much for tuning in today.
Great. Thank you, Ritu. I appreciate all of your efforts. So much work has gone into this. And also Anmol, who originally, I think, invited me. So hi, good to see you. And so many of my lovely students. This is like a special celebration today. Very happy to see that. For those of you who I don't know, let me just take a moment to talk a little bit and introduce myself. I'm not going to speak that long today, though, because the great part about today's experience is that we're really going to be experiencing together and being together. And I will not, in fact, talk at you for a long time. So that's actually my favorite part of today. And I think that's the way that I'm envisioning how we are reclaiming mental health because of the way in which we are engaging. So that is kind of the pivotal issue for me. You know, I'm a professor in the humanities, so it may seem a little weird that I am here. Why would I be here at a Reclaim Mental Health conference? Well, I mean, I suppose you could say, you know, because I'm interested in humanity, which is in fact probably the most important thing. But it's also because of my experiences in the last few years with my students and the importance, I think, of mental health in the educational context. One of my other roles besides teaching in the humanities is that I am the director of pedagogy for the School of Humanities, which means that I think a lot about education. And I'm always thinking through the ways in which there are certain forms of pedagogy that can help us reimagine some of the traditional approaches to education that serve as roadblocks sometimes to our learning. So I think a lot actually about how to reclaim education and thereby to reclaim health. And one of the most important ways in which I'd like to do that in my life is to be accounting for mental health within education. So some of the things that I really work on a lot are integrating mindfulness approaches to the classroom. I think about anti-racist and anti-oppression pedagogies and how they impact students and teachers in the classroom, as well as trauma-informed pedagogies. These are all things near and dear to my heart. And I just wanted to tell you a really quick story about how that came to me. So these pedagogical, I've been working on pedagogy for over 25 years now, long time. And there was a striking shift after the 2016 presidential elections in my students' mental well-being. I saw it strikingly, given the polarized political atmosphere that was emerging at the time. And I kind of intuitively began integrating, I was a meditator for quite a long time, and I intuitively began integrating these practices into my classroom. And what I found was that students really appreciated them. They felt that they felt much better, they were more productive and so forth. And I began doing some research on that and discovered, you know, just an abundance of research on the value of mindfulness and particularly meditation practices for a number of things. So I'm not going to spend this whole session giving you the science behind any of this, and I'm not going to make an academic argument, but I do encourage you to look for yourself and to see how important meditation is to decreasing depression and anxiety, burnout, improving heart health, helping with cognitive decline, improving your memory. It's very important for myself, cognitive flexibility, creativity, learning, focus, stabilizing your emotions, reducing sympathetic arousal, and increasing compassion and tolerance and acceptance. And it's a practice that really doesn't just help ourselves and our bodies and minds, but it ultimately helps us become more accepting of other people. And that's key, because it helps us be open to difference and criticism. It helps us tolerate the kind of burnout that we might feel if we're really invested in motivating social or environmental change. And so I guess I'm already on the topic of why that's important, and particularly meditation. Meditation itself is a kind of practice that brings us into the present moment. So we're here right now. And we don't exist in a kind of past. We don't exist in a future, right? We exist right this moment. This is where we're breathing. And so often our minds spend a great deal of time in these other temporalities. They spend a great deal of time worrying about something that we wish we might have changed, something that we really regret, or blaming somebody for something that they did in the past. Or we think about the future and we're anticipating and worrying. How can we not? We're students and teachers. We have to worry about finals. We have to worry about this and that, right? Well, and we should do some of those things. That's smart. But those actual feelings that we carry are only a part of our own experience. They don't actually impact our lives. And they are not, in fact, connected to who we are. Rather, they, in the present moment, rather, they're projections of sorts. And so that, in fact, makes us suffer a lot. And we're the only ones suffering. So we bring that to ourselves in a particular way. So meditation, what meditation does is it brings us back to ourselves. And what it's doing is really building neural pathways. And what those neural pathways are doing is that as they're being built, is they're accustoming us to return to ourselves, to remember that we're here right now, to remember that we don't, in fact, live in a past or a future. And what can that do? That not only relieves our anxiety and depression, it mitigates a feeling of feeling psychically split, which I think is very much what we're feeling in the midst of this pandemic. As if there's a kind of person here on this side of the screen, and as if that sort of two-dimensionality of the screen has condensed us into one thing, whereas our actuality, our actual person is another thing altogether. Does that make sense to some of you? Yeah, that sense of alienation. So I'm invested in bringing us back to this present moment. But I do want to make a kind of important caveat here, and that is that meditation isn't something that replaces anything else. It's not a magic pill. It's not a silver bullet. Sometimes we see all kinds of things in the media that represents it as kind of zenning out, right? That you're in your lotus garden. And that's actually quite a misrepresentation, significantly so. Because sometimes, in fact, meditation brings you closer to your mental suffering. It puts you in touch with it. It can put you in touch with the various traumas that all of us have experienced. The point of it is simply that in putting us in touch with those things, it helps us process and distance ourselves from that suffering. So I have an important point to make, and that is that this is not therapy. And that if you're doing this, you should be doing it with therapy if you're doing that. And I also wanted to note that meditation does not serve a political function. And by that, I mean, it's not trying to pacify disenfranchised persons, and it's not trying to get disenfranchised persons not to seek social justice. And that's quite the contrary. And so I'd want to just mark that as well, and the importance of that. So it's a practice that builds awareness. It's a practice that builds awareness of what you are actually feeling right now. And it helps you make wise and knowing and intentional decisions as you relate to yourself and to others. Not to be reactive, but to see through what's going on both inside yourself and others. And so you may ask yourself really quickly, well, why does a teacher worry about this? And how does that relate to teaching and learning? I don't get it. And that's really kind of one more piece I want to put in today before we actually meditate. And that is that I've realized in this pandemic, particularly given its extremity, that our educational system fails our students on a human level. It does not see difference, and it does not see histories of oppression on which it's built. And I think that failure stems from the fact that there is an excision of our bodies and our feelings and personal experience from classrooms. Classrooms tend to be about thought and not about experience. And as soon as we can connect those, I think we will have a more vibrant and diverse way of relating. So now I'm going to reclaim this and not be academic anymore, and we will get going, okay? We're gonna be present together. Now, there are a lot of meditative traditions. Today, I'm doing one of the two that I'm trained in, which is shamatha, or peaceful abiding meditation. And the way it's going to go is that I'm going to talk a little bit through about the first half of it, and then there'll be silence for a while, and we will sit. And we will feel all kinds of lovely energy. All of us are radiating energy, positivity, as we're resting and being here. And then I'll talk again a little bit to help us close. And that's going to be it. And we are simply going to experience instead of talk about wellness. Okay? That's the plan. So I am going to actually walk you through this. And the first thing that you need to do is take a seat. So you can sit anywhere you want to sit. You can sit on a chair, on a cushion, even if you want to lay down, if you want to stand up, whatever is comfortable for you is perfectly fine. If you feel uncomfortable with any part of this practice, just adjust. Do what feels good. Don't hesitate if you want to stop. It's here to serve you. And that will actually be part of it. You'll notice what you need. And so if you need to stop, stop. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you what the positioning is. If you're in a chair, here I am in my chair. I hope everybody can sort of see me. Maybe, kind of. Let me see. It's a little better. Here I am in my chair, and you'll notice that I've come off the back of my chair a little. But notice that my legs are pretty much parallel. And what I'm going to want is for my legs, my hips to be a little bit above my knees, like this, you see? And my feet are firmly planted on the ground. And I'm really sort of sitting on my sits bones, okay? If I'm sitting on a cushion, I might have a cushion behind me like this, and you will want that. And I can loosely cross my legs in front of me. But the same thing is true. You'll notice that my hips here are above, okay? And you'll notice that my knees are a little bit below where my hips are. Does everybody see that? Okay. And you'll just sort of get comfortable, get your sit bones situated on the ground, and really feel them rooting in. The curve of your back should be just natural. And the sits bones should feel almost like you're a part of it. They're the roots of a tree going into the ground, holding you very firm and stable, but also flexible, like you can sway in the wind back and forth. And for a moment, you can dangle your arms next to you, wiggle your shoulders a little bit, and then just lift your arms from the lower part of your elbows up and just place your hands gently on your legs. And you'll feel your spine elongating up toward the sky, almost like a stack of coins. And now that I've shown you the position, I think I'll come a little bit closer just so that I can see a little better. And you'll do a very gentle tuck of your chin so that you feel the elongation of your spine here at the top. It elongates up, open space. Sometimes we hold a lot of tension in our jaw. And to mitigate that, I invite you to place your tongue on the back of your teeth on the roof of your mouth, and just place it there gently. You'll notice that your jaw relaxes. And then you'll open your mouth ever so slightly, as if it could hold a slip of paper in between your lips. And you'll notice that you can feel the breath coming through your lips into your body and then once again out into space. Now, our body is set. Now, where does our mind go? Your mind will focus now on just your breath, your breathing. And it's focusing on the breathing and the feeling of breathing, the feeling of breathing throughout your body. How it feels for your chest to rise, how it feels for it to close, how it feels for breath to go through your nose or your mouth. To circle in your throat. To disperse into air. And the way you'll focus on that breath is not to push it, but to follow it, as if it's guiding you by the hand, as if it's walking in front of you, like a person does. Your breath will simply work on its own. It will simply happen. And you are watching it as it goes in and out. Much like waves as they come to a shore. And you will continue breathing, feeling your breath in to your body, feeling your breath disperse out. Your belly and your chest expanding and closing. And you will simply sit and you will watch your breath mentally with your mind's eye. And as you're sitting, you may notice something. You may notice that sometimes your attention goes somewhere else. Maybe you have lunch planned for later, or you have to go shopping. And when you notice that your mind is going elsewhere, that's great. That's precisely what meditation is about, that noticing. And you label that and simply say, thinking. I'm thinking. And then you return once again to your breath, in and out. There it is. And as you're experiencing this focused breathing, your mind will stray. It will stray again and again because you are human. And that's okay. And in fact, it's good. You simply notice and return. And this dance between thinking and breath, the return ever again to the breath, is our practice. You are always doing it right. And I'll gently ask you now to slowly return. Simply wiggling your fingers. Stretching your neck or shoulders if they need a stretch. And taking some deep breaths, belly breaths with your belly opening and closing like a balloon. 3 big breaths. In and down. In and down. And slowly find yourself back to a normal sitting position. And when you're ready, and if you're ready, I'm more than welcoming any kinds of questions or simply responses or experiences that you had, how this felt to you. Okay, I've been given a cue that we need to, I see very relieving. Hi, Erica. Very relaxing. Good. Thank you, Rachel. Love to see all of you. We are at an end, and I hope it was a moment where you could just be with yourself and just remember how fundamentally dignified you are as humans and how much power and agency you have, and that you should be well for yourself and for others. Okay. Wonderful. Good to see all of you. Hi, Satvika. Love to all of you, and most importantly, the best and the wellest of wishes. I hope you appreciate my made-up word.
Thank
Goodbye,
you so
everybody.
much, Dr. Castillo. It was amazing. Thank you all for participating. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and the call. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Take care, and thank you for coming to our conference.
You're most welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.